Today we have the ability to be a part of many different kinds of groups. Sports teams, fans of sports teams, local gyms, social media communities, video game communities, scouting troops, Kohl's and Amazon shopping fanatics, religious organizations, churches, and schools. So many things we can be a part of and be members of. And being a part of something usually means that there's something or some way that designates that you're a part of that group. Uniforms, mottos, banners, scheduled times to congregate. Some have ritualistic ceremonies. Some require membership fees. Some provide you an ID card you can carry around in your wallet. So we're all here in this space together. And that says that we are Catholic Christians, or at very least, we want to be a part of what is going on here. Well, what is the proof of our Christianity? Is it just in our presence here today? Is it merely in sending our kids to a Catholic school? Is it every once in a while picking up a rosary or a Bible? Is it being one who occasionally or frequently does good and volunteers for different things? Certainly, these are all good things, but they aren't everything. I think we could characterize these things as a certain exterior Christianity. But today, Jesus wants us to go deeper, probably even deeper than we want to go. If we say that we are Christians, we have absolutely no choice but to be devoted to living not just an exterior Christianity, but an interior Christianity. If we are going to call ourselves Christians, we have to be willing to let the whole of our lives be transformed. Before I go into the readings to talk about their connection to this reality, I first want to talk about baptism. What is baptism? Well, I can say that it's not just about throwing water on someone's body, giving them a certificate, and welcoming them into the I Heart Jesus Club. In the sacrament of baptism, something happens. Something changes deep within a person's being. There's a fancy $5 seminary word to define this called an ontological change. So ontology is the philosophical study of being, what a thing is really at its core, not just on the outside, but really what a thing is. So there's a change in the deepest being. In baptism, your body and your soul, which has an immortal nature, it will exist forever, has been claimed for God. Your body and your soul, both of which constitute the whole of who you are, have been given a capacity to engage in a relationship with God, to pray. And this dynamic relationship with God was not possible before your baptism. So whether you like it at all times or not, your baptized soul has an eternal trajectory, which is meant to return to God in a state of perfect happiness. As a baptized person, they have no choice but to live an interior life, a life of prayer, a life of growth and grace and virtue. We have been gifted all of this and brought into this supernatural family of God. And there are consequences if we ignore and reject this inner reality in this life and the next. So in our gospel, we have what I'd like to probably call the John the Baptist challenge. This challenge of the interior. He's going about and baptizing, and the Pharisees and Sadducees come to be baptized. And what does he say? You brood of vipers, who warned you to flee from the coming wrath? Produce good fruit as evidence of your repentance. Do not presume to say to yourselves, we have Abraham as our father. In other words, show me proof that you are actually devoted to being interiorly transformed. Or are you just going to rest your head on what is exterior, what is superficial, as proof of your salvation? Even though John was this precursor to Christ, he was not messing around. He knew that conversion was serious business. It was absolutely necessary for salvation, that the Messiah was coming soon. In the first reading from Isaiah is this prophet who is preaching to the Israelite people about the coming of the Messiah. What is this coming of the Messiah going to look like? And he uses this analogy of the wolf and the lamb, that they will lie next to each other. I don't know if you've noticed, but due to their specific natures, the wolf and the lamb don't really spend a lot of time next to each other. Hence, I think it would really require something deeply internally transformative for those two animals to act in that way, to be at peace with one another. So Isaiah is saying that the coming of the Son of Man is not going to be insignificant or superficial. It's going to be deeply transformative. If we say we are Christians, we have absolutely no choice but to be devoted to living an interior Christianity, of being willing to let the whole of our lives be transformed. This means transformation in the anger and division that rocks our families and hearts. It means transformation in the pantheon of addictive tendencies, be it food and drink, questionable substances, video games, pornography and unchastity, internet and social media. It means transformation into all the different kinds of media we consume through our eyes and our ears, even the ones that seem a little questionable but don't really hurt anyone. It means into our relationships, especially the ones that maybe aren't so holy. It means into our subtle disdain at times for feeling required to follow the moral precepts of the church, whether we think we understand them or not. It means transformation in our apathy for living a bold life of faith, a life of intimacy with Jesus at all times. In these areas and others, we need conversion and transformation by the grace and mercy of God. Because without this transformation, we're living a Christianity that's a lie. And lies are always and eventually exposed to the light. What happens if we are just devoted to living this exterior Christianity, but to maybe the neglect of our interior life, our interior call? Well, disintegration, not being integrated, and compartmentalization. My spiritual life, my faith life is over there, but my real life is kind of over here. And can't we see the wounds in our worldwide church and even in our own diocese of how this disintegrated approach can affect the whole of the Christian life and can lead to a cooperation with evil, with destructive behavior, with despair and suffering? An integrated life, a life of true and deep holiness, means that our life with Christ and our lived experience are one and the same. And that's not easy. The path of holiness is a lifetime process. It's being willing to be transformed, and transformation takes humility, discipline, and grace. But if we don't follow John the Baptist's call, if we don't take him seriously, if we don't take the path of interior conversion seriously, then our lives will be continued to be marked with despair, destruction, and suffering. All of us have to give all of everything over to our God. It is the only way to peace, fulfillment, and the joy that we seek, to the peace, fulfillment, and joy for which God has created us from the beginning. We need this deep transformation and integration of God within our lives, no matter if it's within our hearts, our marriages, our families, and into our wider community. And know that we are not alone in this journey. We have the church. We have the sacraments, confession, and the Eucharist. We have the intercession of the saints. Finally, Sherry Waddell is a writer who wrote a book called Forming Intentional Disciples. And I would encourage each and every one of us to read it. In that book, she makes the distinction between members and disciples. Members stay on the surface. They live an external Christianity, for as good as that is. But disciples are those who radically live a life of transformation in Jesus Christ. And it is not the former, but the latter that is our calling and goal. It is a commitment to true and radical conversion and transformation on the inside that is the mark of a true Christian. So in this Advent season, let us not just stay on the superficial level. Let's do some soul searching. In our Christianity, are we members or are we disciples? Are we or are we not willing to live an interior, transformed Christianity? Because in this Advent season, we are preparing for Christmas. Christmas is Jesus' radical dive, not into just a nice manger, but into the depths of our humanity, into the depths of our crazy human hearts. I pray that we may all have all the courage to follow him deeply and radically.